What's up, LSAT people? Today I'm going to be talking about conditional reasoning. Conditional reasoning gives people a really hard time in the beginning, and it shouldn't, because conditional reasoning on the LSAT is actually really easy. People just make it harder than it needs to be. That, and they make the same type of mistake again and again and again. So if you're starting off with the LSAT, and by the way, this is for beginners, so if you're already an awesome conditional reasoner, good at the LSAT, then move on, because this will be very boring to you. This is for people barely getting into the logic games and being exposed to conditional reasoning and the structure that they use on the LSAT for the LSAT style of conditional reasoning. I'm going to touch a little bit on diagramming, but instead of using an LSAT game, I'm going to make up a scenario that will give us our conditional statement, and we'll work from there. So, conditional reasoning, what is it? Well, let's start with the conditional statement. Conditional statement has two fundamental elements in it: the sufficient condition and the necessary condition. And this arrow right here, which is important, okay? Don't worry too much in the beginning about what we mean by sufficient. Sufficient for what? It's actually sufficient to cause a necessary condition to occur. But don't worry too much about that. Don't worry too much about what we mean by necessary. Just get the idea that this is on the left, this is on the right. That's important, okay? And the arrow points that way. Now, sufficient corresponds with if. Necessary corresponds with then. It's that simple. It's just an if-then statement. If this happens, then that will happen. Okay, so it all boils down to that. Now, as you may know, the LSAT test makers have a way of making something very simple kind of difficult, right? So you have to untangle it sometimes. But really, all you're going to be doing is the same thing over and over. You're going to be diagramming this way with an arrow, and then you're going to be creating a contrapositive. We're going to discuss that. So, let's have a conditional statement and give you a story. Suppose my friend comes up to me and he goes, "Hey Joe, are you going to the party tonight?" And I go, I don't know, man. I'll tell you, I'll go if you go. That's my conditional statement. I'm saying, I'll go if you go. That's it. But it's not in the right order, right? Because the if's on this side and the then is on that side. So the first step in creating your diagram is going to be putting things in the right order. So I'll go if you go means the same thing as if you go, then I'll go. Alright, so same thing on the LSAT. Sometimes things are going to be presented to you jumbled up. You have to parse it out and put things in the right order. It's that simple. What I'm saying here, if you go, then I'll go. Piece of cake, right? So the next part is deriving the contrapositive. That sounds complicated, but it's actually really easy. All you do is you take this, you put it here, cross it out. Take this, put it here, cross it out, draw the arrow, you're done. In the beginning, don't worry too much about what the contrapositive means, but I'm going to tell you what it means. The contrapositive is the only inference that can be derived from this statement. That means that with just this, if you go, then I'll go, there's only one other piece of information that we can create or infer. One thing must follow based on this, and that is the contrapositive. Contrapositive here says, if I didn't go, then that means that you didn't go. Why? Because I said, if you go, then I will definitely go. And I did not in the contrapositive. And then you're done. And then you can move on to the next rule, the next rule, the next rule in the logic game, and then start chaining things together and creating inferences, discovering things, and hopefully doing awesome on the LSAT. But let's continue on to the errors that people make. People make two fundamental errors in constructing this sort of logic. So, suppose my friend comes up to me the next day. I remember I said, if you go, then I'll go. He comes up to me the next day and goes, "Dude, I saw a picture of you on Facebook." And I go, "Okay, what?" He's like, "You went to the party." Like, who cares? "Well, you said you wouldn't go if I didn't go." I didn't say that. So he's making the first error, right? It's this right here. What he's doing is he's taking the contrapositive and he's reversing it. He's getting this mixed up. This is called a mistaken negation. Negate is just a fancy word for crossing things out, if you don't already know that. So the first error is a mistaken negation. You may be making it yourself. By the way, one of the fundamental keys to doing better and better at the logic games is identifying your errors. Don't just tally up your score and then move on and see, okay, I did better that time or better. No, go through the entire game again and figure out where you're making mistakes. Alright, the next error. Suppose my friend comes up to me and he says, "Joe, I know you went to the party last night." I'm going to say, "Okay, so?" And he goes, "Well, you said the only way you would go is if I went. No, I didn't say that. I said, I'll go if you go. That's it. I didn't say that I would not go if you didn't, and I didn't say the only way that I would go is if you went. All right? And so that's the second formal error that people make, and this is called mistaken reversal. They take the initial information, if you go, then I'll go, and they reverse it to mean something close, but not even close, because this is not true. These are the only things that we can work with. And I guarantee you, on test day, in an actual game, they have tons and tons and tons of trap answers for people who make these mistakes again and again and again and again. So that's going to be important as you're working through your logic games. To see if you're making these two mistakes here, make sure that you're diagramming things correctly. For every single conditional statement that you make, there must be a contrapositive. Always write down your contrapositive. In the beginning, don't worry too much about what it means. Just diagram it. Over time, you'll develop an intuition for it, and it'll just get easier and easier and easier. And that's pretty much it.